Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Arant. I'm the founder of Arant Academic Planning. I'm an independent educational consultant based in the Austin, Texas metropolitan area, where I specialize in Division III and Ivy League athletic recruitment, as well as boarding school admission, with specific focus on post-grad and or reclassifying years for athletes. This is part of a series I facilitated throughout the fall on key topics in boarding school admission. And the topic we're discussing tonight is single gender school admission. So kind of encompassing from the beginning all the way through the end of the admissions life cycle, where I'm joined by four different schools all across the country and even one outside the United States. So before we go ahead and get started, I'll let them introduce themselves and give a brief synopsis of their respective schools. So, Jeff, you want to start us off?
Well, hi everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining, and a big thank you to you as well, Matt, for putting this together. We're excited to share information about single gender schools. My name is Jeff Beck. I'm the director of admission at Trinity-Pawling School. This is my fifth year here at Trinity-Pawling. Trinity-Pawling is located in Pawling, New York, about an hour and 20 minutes north of New York City, about 60 miles or so. We're a Northeast representative of the schools here. We are a school of 270 boys. We have kids from 25 different states, over 25 different countries as well represented. 80% of our students are boarders, and so we're predominantly boarding. And we're pretty excited about the fact that we have an eighth grade through 12th grade boarding population, as well as that postgraduate year, which makes us a little bit unique on top of that. As far as what we're known for, I mean, we're in a location from an athletic standpoint. We are a part of the Founders League, and so athletics is a big part of our boys' lives here. The arts, music, theater, dance, performing arts is quite strong as well. So we keep our boys extremely active. Trinity-Pawling is known for a leader in a few categories, specifically our support for students, our academic support program, known as our Center for Learning Achievement, which encompasses our executive skills program. Our Center for Learning Achievement also has a silo that would be specific for students with dyslexia, dysgraphia, our language-based learning program, which is quite compelling for a lot of families, for students looking for that additional support at a more traditional boarding school. We're excited to be here, excited to share more about single gender schools, and looking forward to it. So thank you very much.
All right, Hank, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll hop right in. Hey, my name is Hank Bramblett. I'm the director of admission at McCallie School. I have been here for 27 years, and I'm an alumnus of the school as well. So I'm all in for McCallie all the way. We are obviously an all boys school. We're located in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is about 2 hours north of Atlanta, 2 hours southeast of Nashville. We're also close to Knoxville and Birmingham. We love our location, both being in the southeast, where we're fortunate to have some very mild winter weather, but also just our proximity to so many major cities lets our boys have a lot of opportunities to do some fun activities. We're a large school. We have 730 boys in grades 9 through 12, and also a PG year. And we enjoy being a big school because that lets us have really big programs. And so our academic curriculum choices are very broad, and we're able to help students who are, in a position where maybe they need a little support up to, we're offering 3 years beyond AP Calculus, and similar level science courses for really strong students too. From an athletic standpoint, we are in a very competitive league and very competitive part of the country. Um, we have 17 interscholastic sports. We've actually had number one national rankings in tennis, swimming, and soccer within the last 5 years. But we're competitive in everything. We also have a strong arts program. Filmmaking is probably the thing that we're most known for recently. You might be familiar with some of McCauley's YouTube videos. We've had students help with that, but we also have an entire filmmaking curriculum as part of our fine arts program. Looking forward to talking about single gender schools. It's something we're really passionate about, and something we think we do really well.
Thanks, Hank. Kimber, you want to tell us a little about yourself and then Chatham Hall?
I'd love to. Thank you. My name is Kimber Keating, and I am the Director of Enrollment and Engagement at Chatham Hall. But I think I'm probably most proud to say that I am the mom of three Chatham Hall alumni, and that's how my family found Chatham Hall. My husband and I met working in all boys boarding in the mid 90s, and because the universe has a sense of humor, when we got married and started our family, we had three daughters. And so, when my oldest was old enough to look for high school, we raised kids that believed that boarding school was the best thing to do for high school. And we went looking for the very best for girls. And we believe we found that for our family and for girls at Chatham Hall. This is my second year on faculty, but my 10th year with the school. So Chatham Hall is located in Chatham, Virginia, which is in Southern Virginia. We're near the North Carolina border. Greensboro and Raleigh are our closest airports. Um, we are at 112 students right now, but we're 95% boarding, which is really unusual for an all-girls school, and something that we're really proud of. We feel like that really enhances our community life. As far as athletics and extracurriculars, we have a very strong riding program. We're very competitive in IEA. And then we have programs in basketball, swimming, volleyball, soccer, cross country, track, you name it, we do it. And my favorite thing is that at Chatham Hall, the most popular sports are our girls' teams because that's who we have at Chatham Hall. That's the teams that get the attention. That's the teams that get the new uniforms. That's the teams that get broadcast for their games. And I would say that the thing that I appreciate most about Chatham Hall is that I believe my daughters and all girls at Chatham Hall have the opportunity to develop their sense of agency and voice. They are well known and well cared for and supported and challenged in the time that they're with us. And I'm grateful to be here this evening.
Thank you, Kimber. Right, now last but not least, Suzanne, want to tell us a little bit about yourself and Bishop Strawn.
Of course. So I'm Suzanne Ranton. I'm the director of enrollment at the Bishop Strachan School. We are the one outside of the United States. We're in Canada. So we are located in Toronto, Midtown Toronto, Ontario. And we are in a quite a beautiful neighborhood right in the middle of the city. So students have access to such a diverse, multicultural city. And we're about, I would say, 20 to 30-minute drive from the airport. So it's really close from Toronto Pearson. And we are a day and boarding school. So we are actually mostly a day student population. So we have about 970 students all together with a boarding population of about 68 students from grade 8 to 12. So it's very small boarding. That's a little bit of our thing too. It's a very tight-knit, close-knit group. And our residence is built right in the middle of the school. So after class, the girls just go right upstairs. Shortest commute ever, and helps in the cold winter months too, that they don't have to go outside, although we do encourage them to go outside for some fresh air. But yes, we're a very inquiry-based, project-based learning, very academically rigorous, but we have a huge range of co-curriculars as well, from athletics to the arts to academic teams and clubs also. And we are an AP school, so we offer advanced placement courses. And we also have something called the Signature of a BSS Girl, and that's a lot about our intentional character development in students. And that includes leadership, self-awareness, voice, ethical citizenship, growth mindset, um, grit, and curiosity as well. So those are some characteristics that we hope that girls will develop in their time at BSS. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to try to keep this kind of as close chronologically as possible to kind of keep in mind the admissions life cycle from inquiry all the way to the students' time on campus. So before we kind of go ahead and start talking about kind of how you market your schools to external populations, whether it's just populations in general or populations coming from co-ed school communities, I was wondering, have either of y'all worked at non-single gender schools, like co-ed boarding schools or day schools? Okay. For those that nodded, I guess, what approach is different from working at a single gender school now as opposed to what you were doing at a co-ed boarding and or day school?
Yeah, I can hop in there. I worked at Kent School, which is only about 25-30 minutes away from where I am here at Trinity-Pawling. And that's a co-ed school. I also went to co-ed boarding schools myself. So I am very familiar with the co-ed environment. And one thing of point of context I would point out for all of our schools is that, while I'm talking and Hank's talking about the benefits of all boarding, that doesn't mean girls wouldn't do well in our environments. I'm sure they would do quite well in our environments, and vice versa for the other schools here. But I think what's important to recognize is that our schools have the luxury of exclusively focusing on our boys, right? And focusing on how boys learn best and what they're able to do. And so for us, from a marketing standpoint, we highlight some of the discrepancies between boys and girls right now, and the fact that boys are struggling across the board, right? I mean, generally speaking, girls' testing scores are significantly higher. Girls are going to college at much higher rates. They're graduating at significantly higher rates. So you're not comparing apples to apples in the classroom when you're looking at boys and girls. And so what we're pointing out and highlighting is that we're at a school that we understand that. We understand boys. We understand that a lot of boys have not fallen in love with learning yet, or they fell out of love with learning. And so we're an environment that has built our entire curriculum, pedagogy around that idea of re-engaging boys and getting them to be excited about learning and challenging them. Certainly not overwhelming them, because that's where boys will shut down. I can speak to that myself. If I'm trying to put something together from IKEA, I'll shut down pretty quickly as I'll be overwhelmed. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. But ultimately, I think that's where for us as a boys' school, we're going to highlight how we are specifically focused on our boys, and we're going to be able to highlight those things at a really high level. We're going to be able to talk about the engagement that we have in the classroom and some of our unique programs, including our effort challenge, where boys are going to be recognized for their effort versus just their outcomes or their grades, and they also receive those achievement grades, but they're also going to receive an effort grade. And so for boys, that connection and correlation to how hard they're working hasn't always been or isn't always recognized when they're being compared to girls in the classroom of a co-ed environment.
And I came from a pre-K through 8 co-ed school before. I was the assistant head of school there before I came to Chatham Hall. And I think the thing that I love about Chatham Hall is that as an educator, I felt like when I had a co-ed classroom, I was always trying to make sure that I was doing right by the girls and right by the boys. And much like what Jeff said, I love the ability of being able to just focus on the girls and what is best for girls and how girls learn best. And also to give girls the opportunity to explore and take risks. And because we know that sometimes girls, when they get to high school, begin to hold back instead of step forward and use their voice, and to be able to encourage them in that critical time is a way that we think gives them that moment of practice that leaves them prepared for wherever they're going to go when they leave us at Chatham Hall, whether they stay in all girls or whether they choose to go back to a co-ed environment. But I think at the high school level in particular, I am passionate about single gender education for boys and girls. I just think it's best for everybody.
I mean, obviously, for my introduction, my almost exclusive experience outside of college is in an all boys environment. But I've been talking about it a long time and spent a lot of time around it. And I think two things that we try to emphasize, and that I think are real strengths. Similar to what Kimber said, I think boys in a co-ed environment often can be afraid to challenge themselves, put themselves out there, afraid to fail and how they look. And that is unique in a lot of ways to the classroom, right? Like, I mean, you spend any time around a group of guys, or just your experience growing up, like if you're playing basketball, you're going to shoot until you have a make. You're gonna finish on a make. But in a classroom, if a boy misses a question, that might be the last time you hear from him the whole time. And so what we try to do based is to use the latest research about how best to engage boys, how their brains develop, what inspires them to create an environment where boys are not afraid to challenge themselves, to miss a question and then get back up and to try again and keep going until they finish the classroom on a make as opposed to a miss. The other thing that I think drives a lot of this, both in all boys and all girls schools, is just the ability for our students to be their authentic selves. If you think about when you were a teenager, or if you have teenagers of your own, spend any time around them, when are they just let their guards down and are their most real selves? Usually it's around their peers of their own gender, their closest friends, their buds. And that's what we see in our schools. And by being able to relax, to be their authentic selves, uh, one, they're just more comfortable in everything that they do, but it also allows them to develop such deeper relationships, both with each other and with their teachers, because they're not putting a lot of energy into putting up a front or trying to be something they're not.
And I just want to add too, it's also, and for girls, and I'm sure Kimber, you know this too. It's that whole building that confidence piece, and it's really that whether it's in sport, and Kimber, you alluded to this too. It's that there are statistics like with girls and the drop off rate of girls being involved in sport. But when you're in a co-ed or sorry, when you're in a single gender environment, you can really these students can really kind of thrive, and they are shining as athletes and shining in also areas that are traditionally, well, for girls, traditionally more led by boys, like such as some of the sciences, but you have girls, an all girls robotics team, and they're competing with boys teams and co-ed teams, and they're confident building the robot and programming it and making it do certain things because that's their environment. They're building their confidence so then they can go out into the world and deal with boys and girls and men and women because they're confident with what they know. And I think that confidence piece is really kind of well, in girls' schools anyway, that really does build it builds in an all-girls environment.
So still thinking about kind of how you market not only your individual schools, but also single gender schooling as a whole. We've heard from all of you that you have robust international student populations. So I was wondering, are those conversations any different when you're talking to a family that is domestically based? So for the three of you, US versus Suzanne, Canadian versus international. How does those conversations go? Are they different at all? And if they are, like, what specifically, I guess, have you noticed over the years when talking to those families of non-domestic students about pursuing going to a boys or girls boarding school?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the region and the area, right? I mean, if you're thinking about the UK, for example, all boys or single gender schools are fairly normal, fairly common, and so you're not really trying to convince somebody of the value, right? Because they're already thinking of it. Whereas there's other markets that it's a fairly new idea, it's a fairly new thought process, and so again, you can kind of take a step back from that is you're eliminating half the population for our schools, right? And so you're solely focused on boys, which we're trying to make it harder on ourselves, I guess. But ultimately, where we're able to kind of shine through is when we're able to talk to those families and explain what we do and how we do it. Co-ed schools are probably more top of mind for a lot of international students or many markets internationally. But I think when we're able to kind of boots on the ground, if you will, and let our alumni shine through and share the outcomes that we have of our boys and have our families, our current families, parents talk about the successes that our students are finding in this environment. We kind of word of mouth or let our graduates speak for themselves. That's what we're able to kind of push to the forefront.
I was just thinking through some of the families that I've been talking to and doing interviews with over the past few weeks, leading up to Christmas break, and I can't really say that I've seen. I probably encounter as much enthusiasm for single gender as tell me I should be considering that over a co-ed environment. And so, I mean, I think every family is unique, and their ideas about education and what might be best for their child are also unique. And
Do you think
so,
it's, sorry, do you think
no,
it's
go ahead.
why that there are far fewer single gender colleges, universities compared to high schools? Because what you're saying, Jeff, about how letting your alumni kind of say, here,
Mm,
like taking the reins, they're all going to schools that are either male, but there are very few of those, or almost all of them are going to co-ed schools. So it doesn't really make that hindrance that, oh, I need to pick a co-ed school to go in order to go to co-ed college because there
right.
are so many, the numbers don't bear out, right, compared to single gender high schools versus college universities. I was just thinking that might be a potential reason too.
No, I think it's interesting to see which ones of our students are interested in continuing with all girls education and who is really interested in being in a co-ed environment. And we kind of it varies year to year, class to class. But I would say that a lot of our girls are like, I feel like I have what I need from all girls and I'm ready to try co-ed. And then there's another piece that's like, I never want to go to school in a co-ed environment again. I think that's the wonderful thing about having options. But I do think that families should not write off the idea of single gender education for what you think you might be missing, because I think and I can say in my family's personal experience, my girls got more than they missed, for sure.
I think you can also look at the biologically speaking aspect of things that boys and girls right around the ages of 12, 13 deviate from a developmental standpoint, and girls tend to be more mature. And again, I'm speaking to the mean here, right? Speaking to the middle. And so if girls are a little bit more mature in that high school age group, they have different skill sets, different abilities, and they should be challenged in a different way that boys should be. But you kind of see that convergence again, kind of that 18 to 22. Some boys, if you ask my wife, I'm a little behind the curve, right? So I'm still working on it as best I can here. But I think that's where ultimately, you look at colleges, it makes a little bit more sense because boys tend to start to catch up from a maturity standpoint, and might be one of those reasons why you're seeing fewer boys schools and or girls schools at the college level.
Back to the original question about international students and promoting our schools. I think in my experience, uh, most international students are driven first by programs. They're looking for a specific program, whether it is athletics or an academic program. Um, and that's driving the search. So we often lead with those, and then begin having the conversations about the benefits of a single gender school. But a family that is looking for a specific program to help maximize the opportunities for their students, I think are often very receptive to understanding how um, a single gender school is also uniquely built to maximize the potential of their student. And that we are custom built for how their son, in our case, or daughter, is built, what they need to grow and develop, and to be able to get the most out of the program that they are sending their child halfway across the world to go to.
So I guess Suzanne, think about Canadian school system, for example, like kind of former British Commonwealth country, as Jeff said, single gender schools are not the exception. They're more understood, right? Is that how you found it from your perspective working at a Canadian school? where you have a very small boarding population, but I imagine a lot of those countries have similar kind of educational structures as opposed to it's not as understood. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, it's interesting. In Toronto, we actually, um, there are actually three other girls' schools and two of which are also have a small boarding population too. So it's actually quite in Toronto itself. There is a value of a single gender school and especially all girls. And from an international level, like like to others' points as well, like it really depends on the country what people are looking for. But I do have students that are interested because they feel that they want to break down these gender stereotypes and that they want a school that can teach girls strong leadership. And so I think that I think that value is out there to be able to kind of nurture and foster this idea of leadership in young women and so when I guess I'm asked, I don't know if this is necessarily answering the specific question, but I just kind of think about that kind of need and want in Canada. I think well, you're right. It's not the norm of, the majority of schools across the country, but I think people do see value in it for sure. Mhm.
So now kind of shifting gears to the actual review process, right? So when we talk about my time in college admissions and then working with boarding school admissions folks, the idea of fit and or match, that's always thrown around, right? It's kind of the buzzword. What's the right fit for your son or daughter? Was the school the right fit for me? I was wondering kind of on the flip side, when you're reviewing applications or meeting with families throughout the process, are there specific kind of personal attributes or traits that you notice that would be, I guess, more conducive to learning in a single gender environment, or on the flip side, may be a bit, I don't know, there might be some more adjustment needed if he or she decides to enroll in that specific school. Like, do y'all look at that? Is it just something that's a case by case basis? How does that figure into the review process where you say, oh, this person's applying to our school. On paper, they look good, but there might be something that they might not be the best fit for us, but they can be maybe a better fit at a co-ed school, for example.
I think a thing that we have noticed is that while we can serve a lot of different types of boys and meet them where they are, a, a student who tends to be more, a boy who tends to be more extroverted in our community does better, at least initially. It makes that initial transition a little smoother. And so that's not to say an introverted student we're not going to admit or we're going to encourage to look at other opportunities. But it is something that we know that we have to support those students maybe in a different way coming in than someone who's going to have, a big personality and be willing to kind of jump in the mix right away.
And it's so interesting, Hank, because I would say that we probably have a bigger mix of introverted versus extroverted students at Chatham Hall than I've most places. And I don't know that I could say that which student tends to do better. Our mission is equipping curious thinkers to lead lives of impact. And so, what I'm really looking for is that curiosity. What are you curious about? What are you passionate about? What interests you? What excites you? What do you want to know more about? Do you have a little spark in you of something? And you don't have, you could be at the very beginning stages of that curiosity, but those students tend to come to Chatham Hall and seize every opportunity and really make the most of what's there. And so that's what I'm looking for when I'm talking to a student. It's what excites you? Is it theater? Is it art? Is it athletics? Is it a particular subject? Is it what you think you want to do vocationally? Is it an organization that you're passionate about supporting? I just want to hear that little spark in you. And that spark, I think, those girls are the best fit for us. And I think they get the most from a Chatham Hall experience.
And I agree. I think we want a huge range of different types of girls, and it's about exactly kind of your questions. What are you curious about? What are you excited about? And do you like to learn things and be engaged? I think that is, I would say it's the same for us. We want all sorts, and those ones who have just yet they're about to crack that potential, and others who are like, oh yeah, I've had a lot of different experiences, and now I want to continue on that road. So it's a real range. I agree, but we welcome, come on in, so it's yeah, great.
I'd add, I share with my admissions team or the admissions team here at Trinity-Pawling a few things that I personally feel strongly about, and we're a school that's founded in the Episcopal roots, and so kindness and community is number one, right? 90% of our faculty live on the campus here, right? And so being that traditional Northeast boarding school, this is our community. And so if we have kids that are not nice boys, that's not going to be a good mix for us, right? So kindness, how they shake your hand, are they holding the door for their mom and dad? Are they those are the types of things that we're looking for from a kindness standpoint. If my 5-year-old daughter's riding her bike out on the quad and I'm pointing out to my side over here, if she falls off her bike, are you going to be a guy that's pointing and laughing? Or are you going to, run over and help her up and dust her off and get her on her way? That's number one. Number two, and I think this is most boarding schools and traditional boarding schools, is that we want students that want to be here. Kids are not sent to boarding schools. This is not a prison, right? This is not a
Well,
sentence.
me being in Texas, I tell folks they
Yeah.
always misconception, oh, boarding school is a punishment because they always associate it with military academies, right? Because there's not
Right.
many down where I'm at.
Right. I mean, and Hollywood doesn't do us any favors either. And pretty much every sitcom, you're going to get sent to boarding school
Mhm.
if you keep acting this way, right? And so ultimately, we don't have kids that are sent to us, right? We have kids that have the opportunity to choose our schools for the incredible range that we have, both academically, athletically, and extracurricularly that's involved in our schools. So those are the first two things. And then, yes, beyond that, you're going to look at the grades, and you're looking at their effort. You're going to look at their curiosity and what they're interested in. But as Hank started with, a lot of the boys, they may not have found that yet, right? And so, I'll ask boys, what's the most recent rabbit hole you've gone down? Well, 15 years ago, I think a lot of kids knew that saying. A lot of boys, I have to kind of explain that to them now. But ultimately, if they're not able to talk about that, well, then that's part of the conversation, right? What are you interested in? And so, that disenfranchised boy is can be dangerous, right? And so getting them engaged, getting them involved, and showcasing how they can do that is something that we're really proud of.
And see, that's why the boarding school admission kind of fascinates me a lot more, quite frankly, than college admission, because I've been on that side before, because it's much more qualitative factors than quantitative, right? So, me working at a school that got 10,000 apps a year, we didn't have the time to meet every student individually, meet their parents, see how they interact with folks on campus. Whereas, Jeff, you mentioned those anecdotes. That's why having the on-campus visit, the interview, the short ride makes much more sense because you have to forecast at such an earlier age, right? As opposed to college, where most of them have a lot of their stuff taken care of, but there's still some work to be done. But if you go back 4 or 5 years, there's still a whole lot of development, which means it's much more uh, urgent to really focus in on those more qualitative factors. So now thinking about kind of how the campus is structured more or less. So I was in a past life, I was an out of bunk staff at a all girls camp in the Berkshires in Western Massachusetts. And we would always talk about having the brother camp and the sister camp where they would do like plays together. There might be co-ed sports. I was wondering for y'all, for your brother and or sister schools, what sort of specific opportunities exist amongst your campuses? I know Hank specifically, you kind of have a unique situation having both Baylor and GPS in the same town, right? So Baylor having the co-ed and then GPS with the girls' school. So how does that work? I guess we'll start with you if that's okay.
Yeah.
being part of that unique kind of triumvirate of schools in Chattanooga.
Yeah, I think it really benefits our students, and it's beyond that. It is, um, there are some cities that are, um I don't know. Again, from a sports analogy standpoint, there's some cities that are like pro sports cities or college sports cities. Chattanooga is a high school town, and so our students, through the course of having a mix of day and boarding students, get to meet uh, both girls and boys from a lot of different schools. We do have a close relationship with GPS. We refer to them as our sister school. That's Girls Preparatory School, which is a large all girls day school here in town. So we have a lot of programmed activities specifically with them. There's obviously a social side. We do prom and kind of all the traditional dances. Um, we do a lot of shared fine arts. We have a combined orchestra and do a huge chorus that's combined around the holiday time. We also have a shared employee that does all of our plays and musicals and things like that. So you have that aspect, but also our student councils meet together. It's really important for us with our relationship with GPS to get the guys and girls together, not just in a social situation. The only time they're talking to girls is not when they're looking across the dance floor, but getting to see girls in leadership positions, in doing service like hammering nails on a habitat build and things like that as well. And then just having all of those other school options um, just really kind of opens the world to our students. They have a lot of choices for friends outside the school community.
Yeah, so I think our location kind of supports our ability to kind of connect in environments that are similar. There's five all girls schools, boarding schools that are in our area that we coordinate with pretty much every weekend. There's an option to go to one of the schools from all different types of events, from game nights to karaoke night to open mic night to the traditional proms and dances to also, community service opportunities and other academic endeavors for our students. It is one of the biggest questions we get from families and certainly boys. What about the all girls schools? What about the all girls schools? And you're like, yeah, there's plenty of opportunity to take advantage of that social atmosphere. But I also want to point out that for boys, and I lived and worked at a co-ed boys boarding school. Boys need one thing typically, and that's confidence, right? And a little bit of self-worth and understanding of who they are, and to be able to kind of make that first move and say hi and introduce themselves. And so a boys' school environment, ironically, in a kind of a 180, provides that opportunity for boys to find themselves and to understand their self-worth and understand who they are and build that confidence that allows them to showcase their skill sets. And it also, because of that vulnerability, right? They try different things, right? So they're not one dimensional. They're usually multi-dimensional. And from my colleagues at other all girls schools, I think the girls are appreciative that our boys are not one dimensional, like many of the boys they may have known from their previous schools. And so, the opportunities that our boys have are numerous. But it again is all optional, and it's up to them if they would like to take advantage of that. We push out all of our activities every weekend to our families and parents, and so everybody is aware of what options boys have to take advantage of.
We're really fortunate at Chatham Hall being in Virginia. There are a number of boarding schools in Virginia, and so together those boarding schools work to afford the different schools opportunities for social engagement, for community service opportunities, and different schools take turns hosting different events. We also host our own events from time to time, and so, but that's really nice that there's collaboration, and so there's comparison of calendars so that everybody's formal doesn't fall on the same weekend, and there's a lot of fun to be had, and it's spread out throughout the year and planned really intentionally that way, with everybody bringing their school calendar to the different meetings. And so I think that's a real benefit. There's also an all boys school in Chatham. It's Hargrave Military Academy, and they have an amazing aquatic facility. And so our swim team practices there on their campus. And many times we serve as they'll come and cheer for us when we have a big home game against a rival, and we'll go cheer for them when they have a big home game against a rival. And so it's nice to be able to sort of be that supportive um, friendship right there in town.
Yeah, and we have in Toronto, there's something called COSIT. So it's the Coalition of Single-Sex Schools of Toronto. And so, yes, we have a great relationship with all of the different schools and we'll do different events. We have, we are actually we're very fortunate because we are a 5 minute walk away from our boys' school Upper Canada College. And so we do a lot of our theater productions with them. So sometimes shows will be on our campus, sometimes they'll be over at UCC. And so we have a great relationship with them, but we also have, even with all of our athletics, we have one co-ed sport that's ultimate frisbee. And so we do that at another boys' school down the road too. So, and again, the girls hold their own because they've kind of grown and thrived and they have their confidence. So they're able to do well in ultimate frisbee with the boys. But yeah, so there's a lot of, it's kind of similar to the other schools. There's a lot of opportunities to kind of join forces and whether there's social engagements or leadership conferences or something. So yeah.
One thing I would just add, like circling back around, is I think one of the great things about the single gender environment is that it does let boys and girls sort of grow and develop and move socially at their own speed and kind of, feel a little less pressure to, you know, put themselves out there socially until, kind of as Jeff said, until they're ready. And so like there's still opportunities, like they can still be kids in this environment. Some of my favorite things around campus is when like it's springtime and the four square games break out in the quad, or it's free period and spike balls going on, um, or there's free food and the boys lose their minds. Like they can just be kids and be themselves. And I think that's a real advantage, particularly in 2025 when phones and social media and everything just push kids so much.
So the last question I have before we kind of log off here is about the gender balance among your individual school's faculty and staff, right? So another misconception that Jeff kind of mentioned about boarding school always equals military school. No, that's not true. There are some boarding schools that are military academies, but that's not exactly what it's perceived in popular culture. Another thing is the composition of the staff themselves. Oh, all boys school, it's going to be all male staff members. The girls' schools will be all female. So can you kind of maybe dispel that notion for us about what that looks like at your respective schools in terms of faculty and staff composition across, I guess, academics as well as other aspects of your campus?
Well, I really love that our school is led by a woman, but we have a male dean of students,
Mhm.
which some folks are sort of surprised by. And he's a great and fantastic fit. And I think that what we try to model in our hiring practices is that leadership and partnership are not gendered, they're human. And so while it's important for girls to see women in leaderships, it's also important for girls to be supported and mentored and taught by men. And so I think that we have a wonderful balance of male and female faculty members. And I think our girls are better for having those trusted adult relationships with both um, male teachers and female teachers, and male administrators and female administrators. And I think that that leaves them really prepared for wherever they go next and for life.
Okay. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
kind of that was a summary I was hoping for. Thanks. I didn't want to
Yeah.
feel like I was going off a ledge there. So as we wrap things up, I was hoping that y'all could impart some wisdom, some advice for these families and students that are considering boarding schools in general, but maybe even considering a single gender versus co-ed. So I was hoping just maybe provide us a couple of tidbits from your years of experience in this world.
Yeah, I think I'll also dovetail off that last question there, which was, we focus a lot on mentorship, right? And I think that for families, as they're approaching this, for many of them, it's the biggest decision that their child has made. It might be the biggest financial decision they've made outside of potentially purchasing a house, or, this is an investment in their child and an opportunity. And so when they're evaluating a school and they're looking at it, you want to understand who is teaching their child, right? And so at a school like Trinity-Pawling, we focus a tremendous amount of our energy towards mentorship, both peer to peer, but also from faculty to student. And that's something that we feel really strongly about. We're about 75% male, 25% female. The female faculty members represent administrators as well as teachers, and that's something that we celebrate, right? I think that's important for, again, boys to see women in leadership roles too. But I think for families, as they go through this process, we do this every year. There's no question that is too big. There's no question that is too small. This is new to many families, and we want to make sure that they know that as boarding school goes, you mentioned 10,000 applications. I think you could add up our last 10 years. I don't know if we have 10,000 applications. I think our board of trustees would love that. And our COO would love that, but that's not who we are, right? We're a small boarding school. We're designed to be really a place that can create a sense of belonging, a place that kids can feel like there's structure, but they're not imposed, and there's a place that they can call home, a place that they feel safe, they feel vulnerable, and that parents feel like they're connected to the school as well. And so there is no question too big, too small, for us to be able to answer for them, and to understand what might be right and might not be right. The only way to know is if you give it a try, right? And so at least hearing out the different schools, different options. Single gender schools can be a fantastic option. It obviously isn't for everybody, but we've seen more and more students come to us and specifically say we're only looking at all boys schools at this time. So ultimately, that's what I would piece of advice that I would share with families as they go through this process.
For me, I would just say don't make a decision before you have to. Some people come in and make just decisions based on maybe things they've heard, or just their general impression of single gender schools. And if you look at our schools and you see programs that you're interested in, you see thriving students, you think that might be right for you, don't cut it off until you give it a shot. Don't make that decision before you have to. And by all means, visit. If you have the opportunity to visit a school, spend time on campus, talk to students, talk to teachers, ask the admission office to connect you with parents and alumni, get their perspective. And because I think what you will find is the actual experience is very different than maybe what you've built up in your mind.
I think my final words might, connected to the mentorship piece and everything, and speaking to alum, and we bring a lot of our alum back in, and I think that that's an important piece too, for students, and especially, girls, to look up to the alum as these strong female leaders and role models. And the great thing is that, when, your child is graduating and they're off to a university, that they can come back and they can be that role model for as a strong, well, in our school, that strong female leader to share their experiences with the younger. So it is building that mentorship and building those role models in there. And I think that that's a great opportunity for families to think about.
My advice echoes a lot of what's already been said, but I do think that visiting, if you can, whenever possible, is so helpful. There's something about actually being in that physical space and imagining yourself there that I think can be very powerful and can be really informative as you're comparing different experiences. Because to get the feel of a community you really do need to be in that community for a minute. And I think that fit is super important. I think there are a lot of excellent educational opportunities out there where kids could thrive at any number of schools. And I think that fit is really what's important. And so that's where I think that the visit is really compelling. I also really agree with the idea of asking to be connected with current families or asking to be connected with alumni. I think that's a great way to have a wonderful conversation. And we try to connect our families throughout the admissions process with our current families so that they can ask those questions. When we have open houses, we have parent volunteers who come and host an offsite reception for parents that no one from the school administration attends. So it can just be parents to parents, have a conversation, ask the questions. What is it really like for your kid to go to school here? Because I find that more and more parents face a lot of really negative comments from friends and family for choosing boarding school for their children. And I think it mainly comes from not understanding the value of boarding school and all of the opportunities that boarding school affords. My husband likes to say that he thinks it's the least selfish parenting decision we ever made. Because, of course, we missed our kids. Of course, we would have loved to have seen them every single day, but we believe that what they received in their years at Chatham Hall far surpassed anything that we could have offered them at home, regardless of where they went to high school. So I say that even though it feels like you're sending your child away, I would challenge you to look at it through a different lens and just to visit the schools and give yourself the opportunity to think about yourself as being a boarding school family. I think you'll be so glad you did.
Okay. I think that's a great note to end on. So, on behalf of the four folks on my screen, thank you for attending this session and have a good rest of your day.